This is Paul Sanneman with Business Success Tips, where you learn how to make more money in less time and have more fun. And today I have Tom Reber, who is like, I think he gets an award for being the most physically fit coach I have ever met. I mean, which is that means you just don't sit around all the time, right? And sit in front of Zoom and eat your spaghetti or whatever, drink a beer, right?
That's
So
right.
so obviously you're very physically fit. I loved your, video, showed, how you worked on yourself really hard. I always think you should work hard on yourself and you on your
Yeah.
job, right? You
Yeah.
obviously took that to heart. So the contractors fight. Now
Mhm.
that sounds a bit ominous, right? So can you explain to me how you came up with that name and what exactly the contractors fight does?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And speaking of physically fit, you should see my coach. So I work with a coach who's way more fit than me. I believe you should always be chasing somebody. So
Okay, fine.
yeah, anyway, it's so the contractor fight is all about the fight between your ears. You know, how you think, your value, your confidence levels, all those different things, negative self-talk, positive self-talk. You will only be as successful as you are mentally strong, I believe. And so that's really the need that we saw several years ago when I founded the company. We wanted to help home improvement contractors, first and foremost, respect themselves and then, earn the respect of the world around them. I think the trades as a whole has gotten a bad rap for the last 40 or so years. Since I'm 54, and as long as I can remember, it wasn't cool to be a contractor. That was
Well, it was,
a
but if you
fallback
couldn't
thing.
become a doctor
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
lawyer or something that really mattered, then I guess
yeah.
you have to go become a contractor, a plumber, electrician, right?
Absolutely. And that's and so we started with the goal of just bringing respect back to the trades in that way, and we are working towards being the world's largest and most impactful contractor business education company out there. We do that through our
That's a pretty audacious goal. How are you going to pull that one off?
one day at a time. Win the moments, man. You just got to win the
It's
moments. Each day you
okay.
got to chip away and do your thing and set big goals and reverse engineer them. And one of the ways we do that is we currently create more free content to help a home improvement contractor be successful than anybody on planet Earth. Through our
Wow.
our podcast, our YouTube channel, our socials. Um, and then for those that want to move faster, we have our different programs and events and things like that are very high level and powerful impact for the people that get involved and really want to get after it.
So how do you the fight between years? I've been a coach for 40 years, makes me an old guy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so in those 100,000 plus hours of dealing with contractors, the biggest problem I got was not knowing what to do, but it's doing what you know. It's sort of like, here's a membership to the gym, but that
Mm-hmm.
isn't going to work, right? So, what is it? Get shape, eat right, and exercise. What's the big problem? Man, we got a fat country, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you get guys to actually work on themselves and handle that fight between their ears?
Yeah. Well, you know, what's funny is I've realized, we've coached thousands and thousands of people through the years. I can't make anybody do anything. That's the first lesson I've learned. I really wish I could push a button and people would change, right? Don't we all wish
Right,
that, like, we could do that as parents too, right?
right,
And
absolutely. Or
and
spouses or whatever, right? We all have
yeah,
a list, right?
and you know the old saying, that the teacher arrives when the student is ready. And
Mm-hmm.
so we just decided to our number one, and if you want to call it marketing strategy, is education. So I just believe that the more we educate people and show them what's possible, tell stories, in addition to being the example myself and with our team and our coaches,
Okay.
it shows people that there's another level of success for them if they choose to go get it. And over time, some of them choose to drink the Kool-Aid, if you want to call it that,
Right.
and plant their flag and say, I'm going to do things differently. I don't have to play by the same old rules that most contractors play by. Um, like one of those rules is, it's you hear all the time, what's the going rate for this? And then they set their prices based on the going
Right.
rate. Well, 95% of contractors don't know their numbers. So why the heck would I set my rates at the going rates when most people don't know their numbers? You got to mind your own business, pay attention to your numbers. And that's usually, the first thing that gets people's attention, Paul, is we teach them the math, the basic math. In fact, I just recorded 3 other videos today, training videos on basic contractor business math. And it opens eyes when, especially you start doing a post-mortem on a project, you job cost the project you just did. We plan to do it and make this is what we did it at, and this is what we made. That's usually the biggest wake-up call to get somebody to really be serious, because they're tired of being tired and broke.
That's true. Well, I know I've had those conversations when I said a simple question: how much money are you making or losing weekly, and why?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Most contractors can't answer that question.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, I remember many years ago, it was my first year in business. I think it was my first or second year in business. I had 50 grand left in the bank at the end of the year. And you go, okay, that's great. Okay. It's better than not having 50 grand. Right. But the biggest problem was I didn't know how. I didn't know how I did it, and so, whether you're making money or losing money, let's figure out why. Because if you know the why, like you just pointed out, we can either duplicate what's working, or we could fix the problem. And a lot of contractors, they're been in business for 20 years, and every year's like the first year, because there's nothing repeatable. There's no marketing plan in place. They don't have a profit plan in place, and they continue to struggle, and they're starting, over every January or whatever their year starts. So
what are some of the specifics? I mean, there's always, have a budget, have a plan. You hear this over and over again. So what makes you different as a coaching company? Because I've talked to a lot of coaching companies. They all say, well, you need to have a plan, you need to have a budget, and you have a strategy. Most contractors don't do that. They have some kind of system to do it or whatever. So, I love your name. That's great. And what makes you different than other coaching companies you may have talked to that makes you special or unique?
Yeah, well, we start all of our coaching programs. Step one is you got to look in the mirror and own your crap. We go after you as a human being before we give a crap about your business. And so, I'll often get on a call with a new client, or I'll run a workshop or something, and I'll take a poll of the room. I'll be like, hey, what's your name? Joe, when's the last time you took your wife on a date? When's the last time you worked out? What are you eating? Like, success is an inside out game. And so it's a strong you, then your relationships, then the business. And sadly, most business owners, not just contractors, this, they put the business first, all in the name of taking care of the people they love. And they end up stealing time, money, memories, and all that from the people.
So you're saying they have it backwards, right?
They have it backwards, 100%. So right out of the gate, that's our launch point is what in your character, what habits, what tendencies do you have? What negative self-talk are you allowing? What actions are you allowing in your life that are sabotaging the success you want? And then,
now you're sounding a whole lot more like a therapist than a coach here. Like, so,
I think sometimes we are, man. And sometimes we are, but I don't really care about your business, because you can always start another business. You can always find a way to make money.
Right.
It's easy to make money, but who you are, you're going to carry with you.
That's true.
And I'm a coach at heart. I was a high school football coach for 17 years while I was building my other businesses and this and that.
Right.
And so I coach because I want to have an impact. I want people to go out and do great things and win at the levels that they want to win. And, so if we don't deal with the root cause of why you're not more successful, which is always you as the owner, then you're not going to have that lasting change that you want.
So use the analogy of a personal trainer, right? I know my wife is a personal trainer. She had a hard time getting people to change their behavior. So how do you actually, you can call people on their stuff. I get it. Like, you're fat, or your diet sucks, or you don't treat people well, or whatever. That's confrontation, or as Dr. Phil says, how's that working for you? Then what's the next step? Once you get, okay, I'm not eating right, I treat people like shit, I'm not a great human being, I want to be better. Okay, I'm exposed. I'm convinced, fix me. So where do you go from there?
Well, and this is not meant to sound like it's some shaming. We don't sit there and shame you, right? This is, if you tell me you don't have any money after being in business for 3 or 4 years and you're still making a measly 90 grand a year, okay,
Right.
then, you know, and you're in debt. And when you go out to eat at restaurants, you got to pay attention to the right side of the menu where the price is
Right.
instead of what you want on the left side of the menu. Right. So,
Right.
if you're continuing to have that, there's an issue with you. It's not the economy. It is not who's in the White House. It is not anything other than how you are choosing to show up. So it's just, and they can either accept that truth or not accept that truth, right? That's on them. This isn't about shaming you. It's like, hey, if you want to fix your business, you got to fix you. Now, when they're like, you know, you're right. Now it's time to, now we know what to work on. And then from there, we could get more strategic and tactical around the business. And that's where, you know, one of our number one golden rules here, which is funny, we get so much pushback for this from,
This is definitely a different approach. I mean, most people are saying you need to, right, you need to fix this system, you need to fix that system, as opposed to you need to fix you. I can see that would be a big issue for a lot of
we get pushback on that, but our next step is around the money. This is where we also get a ton of pushback from small-minded contractors who, again, this is a limiting belief thing, a self-talk thing. We have a golden standard here that we try to get all of our contractors to, and it's simply this: sell and produce your work for a 50% gross profit or more. So if it costs you $1,
I just went, oh my God, I've been doing this for 40 years, right?
Yeah. If it costs you $1, charge at least $2. And we have GCs doing $1 million jobs, subcontracting everything out at a 50% gross profit.
Okay.
Painters, we got
how do you get that?
Yeah.
They're going to go, I'm not competitive. The competition is going to kill me. You know, they got 3 bids and I'm not the lowest.
Because that's not your competitors are not your competitors. Okay. You are your own competitor. So if you don't believe it can happen, it ain't going to happen for you. That's number one. And I'm not like Mr. Woo-woo mamby-pamby here, right? I'm telling you that what you focus on, you get more of. So if all you're focusing on is the going rate, I got to be competitive and all this other BS that most people struggle with, then you're going to be the typical contractor. But for the very few that want to operate at a different level, now it comes going, all right, what are the steps it takes to be a company that is worth that profit margin? Number one, you got to improve your communication skills, your branding and your marketing skills, your leadership skills. All these things work together to make you worthy of the profit margins you're making. Most people will say, oh, that's unethical to charge that much. That's bullshit, right? Like, listen, you go out, the shoes you're wearing from Nike, think about the profit margin on that.
Well, I guess it probably took them $20 to make in China, and I'm paying 200, right?
But when you think of the risk of sanity, body, property, all the things that go in to what could go wrong on a construction project, a home improvement project, and yet we're settling for measly profit margins on our jobs, that's friendly fire. We've done that to ourselves because we don't communicate well as a contracting community, right? We don't honor the commitments we make. This goes back to what I said earlier about working on you. If you can't get out of the bed and honor the workout that you said you were going to do, you're going to be a piece of crap contractor. It's that simple. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're going to underachieve. You are not going to reach the levels that you want. And then you're going to whine and complain why people won't pay your prices.
Right.
I mean, this is this is the crux of what we do in the fight is we help you level yourself up as a human being. All right. Starting with going, I mean, we had a guy last night, one of our groups goes, I did a little ask me anything. And I said, what's keeping you up at night? Maybe I can help you. I got a few minutes. And he typed in, my wife doesn't respect me anymore. I replied, do you respect yourself? Long story short, on the other end of 10 minutes of back and forth in this thread with this guy, he's not honoring the commitments he makes to himself. He's not being a person that respects himself. He doesn't take care of himself. He's drinking too much. He's watching stuff he shouldn't watch, and he's owning his crap. And I'm like, all right, now you have a choice. All right, don't trip on anything behind you. Don't stop beating yourself up now. And let's move forward and wake up tomorrow and honor the first commitment you make. Maybe it's getting out of bed on time. All right. Maybe it's not going, maybe it's putting a clean, I don't care what it is. Make your bed, clean shirt, honor the commitments you make. This is why contractors achieve with profit margins. And listen, you have to have higher profit margins because things go wrong in the field. All right. There's delays, there's weather, there's, customers that change things, right? Maybe, I remember one time we stained this gorgeous bar for this client, and the woman of the house, the wife, she loved it. Her husband was out of town. I showed up to the job site. I didn't like it. I thought we could do better. It wasn't the quality standard I had. So I made my team strip the whole thing down over 2.5, 3 days, restain and poly the thing, or lacquer it, or whatever we used. And that came out of the profit margin. So if you're selling your jobs based on the going rate, you're selling to be competitive and play that stupid game, then when things go wrong, or you want to deliver more value to somebody, you don't have the funds to do it. And that's how you get a bad rap as a contractor. That's also why a contractor will start a job. Everything will go great for a couple of days. They'll disappear for a couple of days, and they'll go start another job so they can get a deposit, so they can have the cash flow coming. And
that's obviously robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'm sure 100%. They all do that, right?
And one of the reasons, the fundamental reasons, is the simple rule: if it costs you $1, charge at least $2.
Okay,
do
now
that.
I'm excited. How do you pull that? Because I've been I've been coaching 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have hardly ever pulled that off. I've made people a lot of money. I've been successful.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very good at getting from $1 million to 10 million. I've never pulled that one off. So you got to tell me how to. How do you get them? Like, say you're building a house and it's $1 million house. Mm-hmm. It costs, you want to charge $2 million for the house. I mean, I can see a bathroom that's $50,000 and maybe charging $100, getting by with it. But as it goes up, and you'd bigger projects, to me,
so I want to be clear. We have a couple home builders in our group that are not 50% gross profit. Okay. When I say $1 million, I'm talking remodeling contractors.
Okay.
I'm not talking new home construction. I understand there's different animals here. However, to say that you can't do it in new construction is BS. It can be done. You just have to be the type of company that's worthy of it and build the type of brand that people will pay whatever it takes to have you do the project.
Okay.
Because there are people doing it all over. All right. So we mainly work with remodelers, general guys that are doing, less than 10 million a year.
And what's your average size job for these guys?
Our average size job?
No, the average size job for the contractors, 100,000, 50,000.
It could be 100. It could be, depend if it's a kitchen, it might be 75 to 150. It could be an addition for 300 to 400. It could be an outdoor landscape for $250,000. It could be whatever, I mean, it's all over the place because we have GCs and landscape and pond companies, and we got painting contractors. Their average job size is $7,000. It could go, it's all over. But how you do it is you have to respect yourself. You have to become a student of the game, start job costing and really understanding what it costs. And I think the other big thing here, man, is we settle for scraps because we spend so much time looking at our problems and what can't be done and defending that crap instead of looking to the future that we want to have and putting our eyes on that. Because when I put my eyes on the type of person, the type of company, the type of bank account, the type of relationship I want to have, I'm going to get more of what I focus on. And this is just human beings in general. Most people don't reach their goals and underachieve because they simply spend more time looking at the issues, the roadblocks, the problems, and all the reasons they can't do something instead of putting their eyes and focus on their dreams.
Okay, so you must have gone through this epiphany at one time in your life, I'm sure, because this is not the normal conversation that people have. So maybe go back to, when did you personally have the epiphany that said, okay, I don't have to settle for competing. I don't have to settle for what everybody else is charging. I'm capable of doing whatever the heck I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it. When did that come to you?
I started doing the math of what I was making as a business owner. I started job costing. The math doesn't lie, right? And so I've just had this ability in my life, Paul, to go, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is all I'm going through worth this?
Right. Now, as a comment, I know that I think 90% of businesses fail, and they fail for one reason. The owner doesn't feel he's being compensated emotionally or financially for the effort he's putting in, and leaves.
Yeah, I could get on board with that, which is why we earlier I talked success is an inside out game. You got to get oxygen for you. Right. And I mean, I know how many times I took a $40,000 check, put it in the bank, bookkeeper called me an hour later and says, all right, you got $1,700 left. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because I was undercharging for my work. I didn't manage my crews properly. I didn't have a sales process. I didn't know how to build my brand. There were all these things, you know, you don't just wake up one day and know all this stuff, right?
Right.
So you talk about, you know, the aha or the epiphany, it started with just getting sick and tired of having everybody getting theirs and I wasn't getting mine. You know, sick of being I grew up in a family, man, where my dad and grandfather and uncle and stuff, I mean, all in the trades, and we were never going on vacations. We never had nice cars. We had 1,000 square foot house, you know, and then literally across the tracks, all the white collar dads, they're always going to Vail and all this crap for spring break and stuff, you know, when we were growing up outside of Chicago. And so it was accumulation of all these things. So, but here's the thing, you don't go from a 20% gross profit. If you do a $10,000 job and you're making $2,000 on it, you might as well go jump off a bridge at that point. All right. So some people just go, I'm all in, I'm going to 50% right now. I'm not doing this anymore. And they're successful. Other people go, all right, you know what? I want to get to 25. Once I'm booked out a couple weeks or whatever their thing is, then I'm going to jump to 30. Then I'm going to jump to 40. Then I'm jump to 50. Right. So, but you have to stretch yourself. You have to push yourself. You are not going to volume your way into profitability as a typical home improvement contractor.
Right.
Another thing, you know this, you've been doing this for 40 years. You can't compare yourself to multi-billion-dollar corporations and their profit margins. You can't, you know, if there's a $2 billion construction company and they're walking with a 20% gross profit and a 5% net, the dollars are very differently. And trust me, you know, they got CFOs and they got all the financial geniuses in the world in a company like that. But the fastest way for a small business owner in the home improvement industry to make more money and have a better life is simply go get the 50% gross profit. And you get there by learning how to communicate, because you asked how we do this. We do more sales training. And I don't even like calling it sales training, although that's the sexy name for it. It's really communication training. It's how to have a conversation with somebody and understand what is their motive for doing the project. What's most important to them? We'll talk budget. We'll talk other people that are involved in the decision. This is all in a 15 to 20-minute phone call before we go to somebody's house.
Right. So how do you get that contractor or the owner, whoever, to learn those skills? Because they're used to getting beat up all the time. I mean, I deal with hundreds, thousands guys. They get beat up all the time. They call and they say, "Well, I'm gone to Angie's List. I got 4 people pricing at her house or something, and you know you're way higher than the others guys. I'll talk to you fifth." So and also consumers, I think, are getting more sophisticated because they got access to the internet. They got access to all this pricing information and help. They can call ChatGPT and say, "What should it cost?" Right? So now that they're having all this other information, how do you help the contractor get the price he wants to get?
Well, he first has to understand his numbers, right? And so that's number one. You got to know your numbers. You got to know your overhead, what's your current gross profit. You got to know where you are to be able to figure this out and price properly. But let's just say all that's past us. Number one, they have to want to. They want to be, they have to, just like the gym analogy you used. I could hire the best personal trainer in the world, get the best meal plans and this and that. But if I don't honor the meal plans and the sleep regimen and the supplements, and I don't push myself in the workouts, I'm not going to get the full benefit of it. Right. So you have to want this. And I shared earlier, we do more free content than anybody. My number one job is to move somebody's heart and show them what's possible for their life. When I move your heart, you jump into our program and you will do whatever it takes to have the life.
So it's inspiration and perspiration, not just preparation.
Right? But it's back to being the example. Talked about being the example, showing people it's possible. And it's just like anything else. When you have one, we just got a new puppy. We got 4 dogs. We got a new puppy, Rhodesian Ridgeback. He's already 40 pounds. He's 12 weeks old, right? He's going to be like 100 pounds. My wife does this, says sit, he sits. What do? We give him a treat, right? He got a little win, then he wants another win, then he wants another win. So we help guys get momentum right away when they come into our programs. Like, what are those fast wins? Job cost a project and just see what you made on it. That's a win either way, because now you know something. Hey, here's a way to handle a sales situation that you might run into. Be bold, get a little uncomfortable, because and apply it, test it, put it out there, and then you'll get another little win, and that compounds over time.
Okay. What if the guy says, look, I tried that. I had 4 sales meetings and they all said I was too expensive.
Yeah. Well, then I'm going to ask him, all right, I'm actually going to look at where is he in our group coaching program?
Right.
If he is not, I mean, dude, we have daily sales training role play calls with our coaches every weekday.
Wow.
Okay. We teach you how to communicate. So you just brought up the old, you're too much money, right? Every business owner in the world, every contractor's heard that 1,000 times. Well, this is why role play is important. You talk about how we get people these wins. All right. We teach them the math. We teach them how to communicate and role play and handle these situations with empathy, with enthusiasm. All right. And with confidence. And then we teach you how to attract more of the right leads to your company so that you're not attracting all the tire kickers. But if you, if I told you, you told me you wanted this project, blah, 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 I'm going to say to you, Paul, based on what you're telling me, I got 1 of 2 ways that I can handle this project. Say we're talking a kitchen, right? Okay. You want a new kitchen. And I'm bypassing step 1 of our process because it'll take too long.
Well, the person that calls you has to be able to afford the kitchen. I get that part.
Yeah, but we're going to find out before we go out, before we do any estimating, before we do any measuring, what their budget is. And this is how we're going to do it. So I'm going to say, based on what you're telling me, blah, 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 I'm going to recap what we call their motive, their reasons for buying, not my reasons. And that's the number one mistake that salespeople make, is they don't understand their prospects' reasons for buying, and they spit out all the reasons they think you should. Well, we're part of NARI and we're part of the Better Business Bureau. And we got these awards. Nobody gives a crap. They care about them. All right. So I'm going to bracket it. I'm going to say, based on what you're telling me, Paul, I got 1 of 2 ways to approach your project. The first is we could blow out the ceiling and put some cool beams in here in the kitchen. We could blah, 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 and make you a magazine worthy kitchen that everyone's going to want to show off. And we're looking at, I don't know, $250,000 to $350,000. And I'm going to shut up for a second. Or we could come in, not do the whole beam thing and blah, 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 and tone it down a little bit, give you a super quality product, great kitchen, like you've seen on our website, whatever you want to talk about here. And for that, we're looking at $125,000 to $175,000. Which of those conversations does it make the most sense for us to have right now? And then you shut your mouth. They will give you your budget 100% of the time. Sometimes they're like, well, both of those options are way out of my wheelhouse.
I only want to spend 75,000, right? But they will give you a number.
So we only wanted to spend 75,000. Hey, Paul, I hear that from time to time. What do you think our next move is? See, we teach you how to take control of the sales process by continually giving the prospect control. They say to you, oh, you said 25 grand. That's too much money. When a contractor hears that's too much money, I used to do this, dude. I used to do 300-400 projects a year as a painting contractor. And I heard this all the time. All right. You feel like you're getting backed into a corner and you got to put your fists up and defend your price and justify, well, there's gas and inflation and all this other garbage, right? I got overhead. And you go into defense mode. And I'm aggressive on this podcast right now because I'm very passionate about this. This is not the tonality that I use with a prospect.
Oh, I love it. Keep going. This is good. I'm inspired.
I want your listeners to understand, like you gotta, the right tonality. Empathy is huge. Okay.
Right.
And mirroring, and there's so many other techniques. So Tom, you're too much money, or that's too much money.
Yeah, I can't. That's way too. I can't afford. I can't afford somebody as good as you. I'm gonna have to go with the cheaper model.
Yeah, I understand that. What were you hoping that this was going to cost?
I looked on Zillow, and I looked at a couple of places. I looked on ChatGPT and went on the internet, and they said the average kitchen in this neighborhood should cost $75,000.
I know, isn't it crazy when you start looking into buying something, that you want, and how often things just cost way more money than you think they're going to cost. I mean, what do you think we should do next, Paul?
Well, maybe I should look for another contractor. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm fairly confident based on what we talked about and you know the pictures that you sent me over, because we have people send us pictures and
Right.
video and this and that. That you're going to be right in that range that I gave you. And so, you know, I would encourage you to go ahead and talk to some other people. And if you like somebody, if the price works for you and you feel that they're going to deliver all the things that we covered earlier, which I've recapped in our motive thing, which we
Right.
didn't do here, then 100%, you know, go for it. See, I'm taking away all the hard sales tactics, because I'm not going to go out there, because what will happen, Paul, is some people will go, well, can't you just come out and look at it? Okay. And I'd be like, I wish I could come out
Oh,
there
this
and
is
look
on
at
the
everything.
phone, right? You're doing
This
this on
is
the
all
phone.
on the telephone.
Okay. So you
We are
haven't driven
not-
halfway
so
across town at 8 at night to meet this guy,
yeah,
right?
the average contractor spending 4 hours of their life running around in traffic, typing crap up, negotiating against themselves at 11 at night before they hit send. All right, all just to get ghosted, and people go into the witness protection program after they get a price. So
Right.
I'm going to know our clients, our members in our program know before they go to somebody's house, and the client knows. Now, this is also supported. I talked about how do we do this? We teach you how to build your brand, create educational content as a contractor, because people are typing stuff into Google. What's a kitchen remodel cost? You brought up Angie's and Home Advisors and all these other things, right? Why are those companies doing more education in our industry than contractors? Because we're lazy. That's why we need to own our crap. Okay. So you get off your ass and learn how to be the champion of building your brand and be an educator. Okay. Because when you build a brand, there's safety in a brand. When you build a brand and position yourself as the expert, experts are trusted. They get less price objection. Okay. And
Right.
so all your marketing, good marketing, it's been said, is like a great drive in golf. It puts the ball right next to the hole. Right. And so that the sales call is just a gimme putt. You just tap
Right.
it in. And that's how we're able to do this. So, you know, we hear all the time, I was talking about getting backed into the corner. I want to finish this thought, because I want your contractors listening to this to understand, you don't have to be on the defensive. You don't have to justify a thing. You live in your world every day. You know what things cost. You know the things that could go wrong. Customers, they don't go to customer school. They don't go to customer school, right? They don't know how this stuff works. And they're watching stuff on TV or these stupid third-party lead gen sites.
That's right. They have a home improvement show that builds a kitchen in, 3 days for $50,000, right?
Yeah, I hosted one actually. So anyway, whole different story. But here's the thing. Here's a word track I can give somebody. Tom, that's too much money. 10 grand's too much money. Instead of defending, oh, overhead's high and this and that, you affirm it. Paul, I hear that from time to time. What makes you say that?
Well, because I've done my research and I've talked.
But do you notice the tonality?
Yeah.
I'm affirming. I'm not combative. I'm not, hey, lady, this is what it costs. I'm like, I get it. Things could be, I hear that from time to time. When I say, what makes you say that, they now have to defend their position of how they came up with what it should cost. And from there, we have a fundamental concept and belief that we are pounding into our heads constantly over here. It's peel, don't pounce. P-E-E-L, don't pounce. The average salesperson, when they get some sort of pain, right? Oh, the last contractor made a mess. We pounce on it like a lion on the prey going, we'll never leave a mess. And we're blah, blah, we always clean and we Swiffer the floors. Okay. Hold back and peel. You said, can we back up a minute? You just said the last guy left a mess. Tell me more about that. You're peeling it back. You're peeling it back. You're peeling it back. This is all part of our motive step in our sales process. I have a quick story here. I sold, it was $28,000, $30,000, $35,000 project, standing in a guy's foyer, never saw his house, never went in. I mean, I did after we agreed to the job, believe it or not. Okay. I walked in and I said, hey, what are you hoping to accomplish here? Whatever, after the formalities. This was in person, I don't know, 18 years ago, whatever it was. Says, want the whole house painted, the inside. And I said, yeah, fair enough. I said, hey, as I'm just standing here looking around, it looks like it was painted fairly recently. what's motivating you to do it? You just tired of the color? He goes, yeah, there's some quality issues. We're not really happy with the color. And the last contractor was a total pain in the butt. And I just simply said, I said, pain in the butt, and let it hang. And he went on to explain to me for a good 10, 12 minutes how he hired the painters. He travels every day during the week for work. And every night he would call home and his wife would read him the riot act and scream at him for hiring the painters because they were leaving tools around. They were leaving a mess. They were doing their business in the toilet, not flushing. They were treating it like it was some new construction commercial job site, right? They weren't covering it was a total disaster. And every night he literally called home, got yelled at. At this point, this is where most guys would pounce, right? They go,
yep.
Well, Paul,
I won't do that. Let's do it, right?
Blah, blah, blah. Look at our reviews, blah, all this garbage, right? I said to him, I said, man, I'm really sorry you had to go through that being married. I can imagine what that's like and having little kids. I said, man, I just got one question though, man. I'm just curious. He said, what's that? I said, what was the vibe like after you came back home in town? This vein pops out of his neck. His face turns red. He was pissed. His wife made him sleep on the couch, wouldn't let him sleep. I mean, it was like this crazy emotional thing.
Right.
And I said, Paul, what would happen if I wrote it into the contract that if your wife had to spend 1 millisecond of her existence cleaning up after our company, that the job 100% would be free? He goes, you would do that? And I said, yeah, I would do that. He goes, the job's yours. I said, I haven't even told you what it costs yet. He goes, I don't care. The job's yours. Because his pain wasn't, he didn't want the paint job. What
he didn't want his wife yelling at him. That's what he wanted.
He never wanted to go. And there was a lot more to the story that I fast tracked here. But the point is most contractors, they pounce on things and they brag and they spit out all the reasons why. I could have told them we were the business of the year in our community. I could have told them about being featured in this magazine and this and all these things and the awards. And
I really didn't care.
But he didn't care. And that's why this is the fundamental reason. After you have that confidence in your numbers, when you have the ability to sell unafraid, meaning you are prepared, you role play, you know how to handle situations. It's not manipulative at all because you're just trying to help them get what they want. Like earlier, you're like, I wanted to spend 75 on the kitchen. It's not my job to twist your arm into spending 150. It's my job on that initial pre-qualification sales call to determine, does it make sense for us to go on a date? It's like a dating app is really what it is. Should we go have a date? Well, I saw that the average kitchen should be this. I know it's crazy. Why do you think it's so low? We also justify that, don't we? Like, oh, the other 18 bids I got were $5,000 and you're 10. And we automatically feel like we're the ones that are wrong when in reality, we're the ones that know our numbers.
Right.
So in those points, I'm going to go, I know it's crazy. How do you think they can all do it for so little money? Like, I don't make the assumption I'm high because I know my numbers. Right. So all these things work together, man. And that's how we help contractors win at a high level. And listen, some come in and they just think by being part of the program that it's going to magically happen. No, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the reps. But if, you're going to have pain one way or the other, the pain of discipline or the pain of getting your butt kicked your whole career. Right. So pick one.
Absolutely. Ron, I'm impressed, Tom. That's probably one of the better talks I've had because you got really to the point. So contracts is this. I would suggest, how do they get in touch with you, Ron? Let's say they go, okay, I'm inspired. I get it. It's not working for me. What do I need to do? What's it going to cost? Help me out here.
Yeah, you can go anywhere, and just look for the Contractor Fight, number one. Okay. All over YouTube, our podcast, this and that. At Real Tom Reber on Instagram, if people want to follow me directly on that platform. But I do have something if you guys go to sellunafraid.com, you can grab, we have a guide on how to spot a cheap tire kicking prospect. Okay. Just some of the things that we touched on here to help them identify them before you go spend hours of your life with them and burn a tank of gas and follow
Right.
up while they ghost you for 6 months. So, that's, sellunafraid.com, and you guys can grab it there.
That sounds great. Well, Tom, this has been very inspirational. I'm going to have to go to the gym twice more this week. I'm excited. And my wife always says, like, no, I go, what's one little candy bar? Look, zip, none, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Well, I really appreciate this. You've been awesome. And I'd like to have more guests like yourself. And, if you're listening to this podcast, not to call this guy is just not smart. I mean, you can make a decision once you call him, but not to call him is just not a good thing to do. So thanks, Tom. I really appreciate your time. And it's an awesome podcast.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you as well. Have a good day.